My parents threw me away like I was garbage when I was just 7 years old so they could focus on their perfect new baby. Now, years later, they're desperately blowing up my phone because that same golden child is publicly humiliating them, ruining their reputation, and turning their lives into a nightmare. Last week, a phone call from my biological parents shook my world, forcing me to question everything I thought I knew. They had abandoned me at the age of 7, and now out of the blue they wanted me back in their lives. The reason? Their supposedly perfect daughter had turned out to be less than ideal. To provide some background, my early years were a hazy memory of emotional distance and empty spaces. My parents were quite young, in their early 20s when I was born. My father was employed at a law firm, while my mother was completing her master's degree. I recall very few instances of them smiling at me or engaging in play. Most of my recollections involve seeing their backs as they walked away, seemingly always prioritizing something more important. At home I felt like an afterthought. My packed lunches were occasionally forgotten, my school assignments remained unassisted, and my questions often went unanswered. Yet, during family gatherings or when their acquaintances visited, their demeanor would completely transform. My mother would meticulously style my hair, dress me in appealing clothes, and we would play the part of a flawless small family. My father would toss a ball with me in the yard, inquiring about school loudly enough for the neighbors to overhear. It was all an elaborate performance. I once confided in my grandmother that my parents never spoke to me at home. That very night, I overheard them arguing intensely in the kitchen. The following day, my father sat me down and sternly explained that family matters were to remain strictly within our household. He warned me of severe repercussions if I ever disclosed details of our home life to anyone again. By first grade, I was struggling significantly. My teacher sent notes home detailing my declining academic performance and behavioral issues. I found it difficult to sit still, frequently forgot my homework, and often got into altercations with other children. These notes were met with shouting at home. There were no inquiries into the reasons behind my acting out, only immediate punishment. My father confiscated my toys, and my mother made me stand in the corner for extended periods. After several months of this, I came to a startling realization. Misbehaving was the only way to gain my parents' attention. Being well-behaved yielded nothing, but acting out at least got me some form of acknowledgement. So, I intensified my disruptive behavior. I deliberately knocked over displays in stores, spoke disrespectfully to teachers, and refused to complete my schoolwork. It wasn't that I desired to be bad. I simply yearned for them to truly see me. Around my 7th birthday, we had a modest celebration at home. Just my parents and me. No other children, no relatives. In the midst of unwrapping my 3 gifts, my mother abruptly announced her pregnancy. My father's face illuminated with a joy I had never witnessed before. They embraced, completely forgetting my presence as I sat there with my half-unwrapped presents. That was the first time I had ever seen them genuinely happy about anything related to our family. 3 weeks later, I returned home from school to find my mother packing my belongings into a suitcase. When I inquired about what was happening, she offered no reply. My father entered later and informed me that I would be moving in with Aunt Patricia, my mother's older sister, who resided several hours up the coast. He explained that I wasn't flourishing in their home, and they believed this arrangement was in my best interest. I pleaded with them to let me stay, promising to be better, to be quiet, to achieve good grades. I clung to my father's leg as he attempted to walk away, screaming until my throat was raw. My mother never once looked at me. She simply continued folding my clothes as if I weren't even there. The next day, we drove to Aunt Patricia's house. I exhausted every bargaining tactic a 7-year-old could conceive. I promised to eat all my vegetables. I promised to never ask for toys. I promised to be invisible if that's what you want. Nothing worked. Their decision was final. Aunt Patricia owned a charming bed and breakfast along the coast. She was unmarried and had no children of her own. She greeted me with a warm embrace and led me to a room adorned with seashells and a calming blue bedspread. My parents remained for 2 days, assisting me in settling in, though they spent the majority of their time conversing with Aunt Patricia in the kitchen while I sat alone in my new room. When they finally departed, something within me shattered. I spent the subsequent 3 weeks barely eating, barely sleeping. Aunt Patricia would sit beside my bed for hours, recounting tales of the ocean or the guests who stayed at her B&B. She never pressured me to speak or to feel better. She was simply present. Aunt Patricia attempted to arrange phone calls with my parents, but they seldom answered. When they did, the conversations were brief and uncomfortable. They inquired about my grades but never about my emotional well-being. After a few months, the calls ceased entirely. A peculiar shift occurred as time progressed. I realized I didn't miss my parents. Life with Aunt Patricia was serene and predictable. She asked about my day and genuinely listened to my responses. She assisted me with homework without sighing or glancing at her watch. She proudly displayed my drawings on the refrigerator and boasted about me to her guests. I began helping around the B&B, carrying towels to rooms and setting the table for breakfast. Aunt Patricia provided me with a small allowance, which made me feel mature and responsible. At school, I easily made friends, and my teachers sent home notes commending my improvement. I no longer felt the compulsion to act out. After living with Aunt Patricia for approximately 6 months, I finally revealed the truth about my time with my parents. I explained how they neglected me at home but presented themselves as perfect parents in public. I recounted the corner punishments and the threats to maintain silence. I expressed my gratitude to her for saving me. Aunt Patricia wept that night, which puzzled me, as I believed I was sharing good news, that I was content with her. The next time my parents called, one of their rare attempts, I noticed Aunt Patricia's voice was colder, her answers more concise. She became protective of me in a way I had never experienced before. Over the subsequent 12 years, I saw my parents only at significant family occasions, such as weddings or funerals. We exchanged pleasantries but nothing more substantial. I learned I had a sister named Miranda, who was now around 11 years old. We never formed a bond. Family rumors suggested Miranda was experiencing behavioral difficulties, talking back to teachers, being rude to adults, and getting into trouble at school. I am now 19 and attending college near Aunt Patricia's home, pursuing hospitality management with aspirations of inheriting her business someday. I still visit her on weekends, assisting with the B&B, and learning the financial aspects of the operation. Last weekend, during one of my visits, my parents called Aunt Patricia's house phone. They do not have my personal number, and I prefer it that way. Aunt Patricia answered, then handed the phone to me with a look of concern on her face. The conversation began with awkward small talk. They inquired about college and congratulated me on my grades. Then my father cleared his throat and stated they desired another opportunity. They suggested I reconnect with them and potentially move back home after college graduation. I asked why now, after 12 years of almost complete silence. That's when my mother confessed the truth. Miranda was becoming a problem child and causing them social embarrassment. They wanted me back as their success story to parade before friends and family. I immediately declined. I informed them I would not be used as a pawn in their social charade. I reminded them that my life had improved dramatically after I left their care. I attributed all credit to Aunt Patricia, making it unequivocally clear that she was the one who raised me, not them. My father became defensive, bringing up the monthly checks they sent to Aunt Patricia for my upkeep. I chuckled and told him the amount barely covered my basic necessities. Aunt Patricia supplemented it from her own savings to provide me with a decent life. Their contribution was the absolute minimum mandated by law, nothing more. My mother then labeled Miranda a failure and demanded I assist them as their son. That was my breaking point. I told them they were not my family in any meaningful sense of the word. Aunt Patricia was my family. I instructed them to leave us both alone. So, am I the jerk for telling my biological parents they aren't my true family after they abandoned me, and now wish me back to enhance their public image? Update 1. It has been a week since my initial post, and I want to express my gratitude for all the supportive comments. The overwhelming consensus appears to be that I am not the jerk, which honestly helps validate the feelings I've been experiencing since my last entry. My parents have not ceased their attempts to contact me. They have been calling and texting from new numbers and creating new social media accounts each time I block one. Their messages range from guilt trips about tearing the family apart to demands that I apologize for my disrespectful behavior. I have ignored all of them. I spoke with Aunt Patricia about the situation last night. She concurred with my decision to sever contact and shared some information she had gathered from other family members. Apparently, Miranda was apprehended shoplifting at a local mall last month. When confronted by security, she unleashed a massive tantrum in front of several of my parents' friends who happened to be shopping there that day. To compound matters, this incident occurred just days before Miranda's 11th birthday party. During the party, two of my mother's sisters openly questioned my parents' disciplinary methods in front of other guests. They suggested that my parents had utterly spoiled Miranda, while simultaneously failing to establish proper boundaries. This public criticism seems to be what propelled my parents to reconnect with me. They are desperate to counter accusations of failed parenting. Aunt Patricia also disclosed something I had never known. When my parents first sent me to live with her, many family members expressed disapproval. They felt my parents were choosing the easy way out instead of addressing my behavioral issues. However, my parents managed to manipulate the narrative, claiming they made the difficult decision to send me to Aunt Patricia because her quiet coastal town would be more beneficial for my special needs. Needs I apparently did not possess once I was in a stable environment. The more I uncover about my parents' manipulation, the more resolute I become in my decision to keep them out of my life. I actually feel a profound sympathy for Miranda. Our parents failed both of us just in different ways. They neglected me until I became inconvenient, then dispatched me. With Miranda, they seem to have swung to the opposite extreme. Overindulgence combined with emotional neglect when she doesn't conform to their perfect image. I find it disturbing that they are already labeling Miranda a failure at 11 years old. She is still a child attempting to navigate a complex home environment. Her acting out is likely serving the same purpose mine did, to garner attention from parents who only care when it impacts how others perceive them. Some family members have reached out to inquire why I won't assist my parents with Miranda. They fail to grasp that my parents do not desire genuine help. They merely want a prop to exhibit. If they truly sought assistance with Miranda's behavior, they would pursue professional guidance, not drag back the son they abandoned 12 years ago. Yesterday, I received a lengthy email from my father explaining how much they have matured as parents since sending me away. He asserted they recognized their mistakes with me and did better with Miranda. If that were true, why is Miranda exhibiting the same types of behaviors I did? And why are they labeling her a failure, instead of recognizing her actions as cries for help? I have decided that if they contact me again with more guilt trips, I will not hold back. I will tell them precisely what I think of their parenting both with me and with Miranda. I understand confrontation is not always the optimal solution, but sometimes people need to hear the unvarnished truth. In more positive news, I have been excelling in my hospitality management program. One of my professors recommended me for an internship at a luxury resort next summer. This experience will prove invaluable when I eventually assume control of Aunt Patricia's business. She has already begun instructing me on property taxes, insurance, and the financial aspects of operating a B&B. Aunt Patricia continues to be my steadfast support through all of this. Last night, she brought out old photo albums, showcasing my transformation after moving in with her. In the earliest pictures taken during my first weeks at the B&B, I appeared withdrawn and small. My eyes were consistently downcast, my shoulders hunched. As the albums progressed, I could see myself standing taller, smiling more, looking directly at the camera. By the time I reached high school, I was unrecognizable from that frightened 7-year-old. I asked Aunt Patricia why she took me in without hesitation. She explained that she had always desired children but never found the right partner. When my parents called about sending me to her, she seized the opportunity. She admitted she had no inkling of the neglect I had experienced until I confided in her months later. By then, she had already fallen in love with being my guardian and could not envision life without me. I will provide another update if anything significant transpires with my parents. For now, I am concentrating on my studies and assisting Aunt Patricia in preparing the B&B for the upcoming tourist season. Update 2. Events have escalated dramatically since my last update. My parents called from yet another new number last week, and I finally lost my composure. I was already strained from midterm exams and insufficient sleep when the call came. When I heard my father's voice demanding an apology for my disrespect, something inside me snapped. I began yelling, truly yelling for the first time in years. I told them they had earned no title as parents. I made it unequivocally clear that Aunt Patricia was my family, the person who attended every school play, assisted with every project, and celebrated every accomplishment. I reminded them that their monthly support checks were barely sufficient to cover basic necessities, while Aunt Patricia delved into her retirement savings to provide me with a good life. I highlighted that they failed Miranda in the same manner they failed me, just differently. While they neglected me entirely, they apparently spoiled Miranda without offering discipline or emotional support. I told them they were the true failures, not me, not Miranda. My mother attempted to defend themselves, asserting that Miranda's shoplifting was an isolated incident that did not reflect their parenting. I scoffed and asked if they recalled my own behavioral issues that mysteriously vanished as soon as I moved in with someone who actually parented me. That's when I confronted them with what I believe to be the truth. They do not care about being good parents. They only care about appearing to be good parents. Their entire relationship with both their children has revolved around maintaining their social image. This triggered something within them. They began screaming insults about my ingratitude, about how much they had sacrificed for me. The conversation concluded with my father shouting that they were glad they sent me away because I wasn't good enough, and they happily chose Miranda over me. After they hung up, I anticipated feeling upset or angry. Instead, I felt nothing. Their words could no longer harm me. Their final outburst only validated my point. They lashed out when faced with truths they could not refute. I do have one regret. I wish I could help Miranda. She is trapped in that house with parents who prioritize appearances over her well-being. At 11 years old, she is already being dismissed as a problem instead of receiving the support she desperately needs. Aunt Patricia suggested that my confronting my parents might actually benefit Miranda in the long run. Now that I have directly called them out, they might realize they are following the same destructive pattern with her. It is a slim hope, but it is something. In an unexpected turn of events, my father's parents, grandparents I rarely saw even before being sent away, reached out to me. They had been hearing fragmented accounts of the situation from various family members and wished to hear my side directly. We have arranged to meet for lunch next week. I am apprehensive but also curious to hear their perspective. The confrontation with my parents seems to have sent ripples through the extended family. According to Aunt Patricia, people are beginning to question the narrative my parents have been fabricating for years. The timing of their reaching out to me, immediately after Miranda's shoplifting incident, did not go unnoticed. I do not derive pleasure from their social discomfort, but there is a certain justice in the truth finally coming to light. They spent years meticulously crafting an image of themselves as selfless parents who made a difficult choice for my benefit. Now that facade is crumbling, and they are facing the repercussions of their actions. For now, I am concentrating on completing the semester strongly and assisting Aunt Patricia in preparing for the summer tourist season. Her B&B is fully booked from June through August, and we have been updating the website and reservation system to manage the increased traffic. I have also been giving more concrete thought to my future. While I still intend to take over Aunt Patricia's business eventually, I am considering expanding it. The property next door recently became available for sale, and we have discussed the possibility of acquiring it to add more rooms or perhaps a small restaurant. As for my relationship with my parents, I believe that chapter of my life is permanently closed. Their final words made their sentiments clear, and I have no desire to subject myself to further manipulation and emotional abuse. I will provide another update after meeting with my grandparents or if there are any significant developments concerning Miranda. Update 3. It has been 2 months since my last update, and so much has transpired that I barely know where to begin. After my intense confrontation with my parents, they finally ceased their attempts to contact me. According to family whispers, they have been struggling to convince relatives that Miranda's shoplifting was merely a one-time occurrence. Several teachers from her school have called about her disruptive behavior in class, which has made it challenging for my parents to maintain their perfect family narrative. The most significant development involves Aunt Patricia. After 12 years of maintaining relative silence about why I came to live with her, she finally began sharing the truth with family members. She revealed that my parents essentially discarded me because they no longer wanted me after conceiving Miranda. She explained how my behavioral issues miraculously resolved within months of moving in with her, suggesting they were reactions to neglect rather than inherent problems. This revelation spread rapidly through the family. Combined with my parents' current struggles with Miranda and their defensive reactions when questioned, it created a significant shift in how relatives perceive them. Many family members who previously believed my parents' version of events have reached out to apologize for not recognizing the truth sooner. My lunch with my grandparents, my father's parents, evolved into a 3-hour conversation. They admitted they had suspicions about my parents' treatment of me, but never felt they possessed sufficient evidence to intervene. After hearing my first-hand account of my childhood and witnessing how I thrived with Aunt Patricia, they expressed profound regret for not taking action sooner. What happened next astonished everyone. My grandparents, concerned about history repeating itself with Miranda, decided to petition for temporary custody. They gathered evidence from multiple sources: my story, Aunt Patricia's observations, reports from Miranda's teachers, and accounts from other family members who witnessed concerning interactions between Miranda and our parents. The judge granted them temporary custody pending a full hearing. Miranda moved in with them last month. According to my grandparents, she seemed emotionally numb at first, but has gradually begun to adjust to their more structured environment. They are pursuing permanent custody with visitation rights for my parents. The most unexpected outcome of all this has been my evolving relationship with Miranda. Shortly after moving in with our grandparents, she contacted me through their phone. She told me our parents had always prohibited her from reaching out to me, telling her I was a bad influence who would corrupt her. We have spoken several times now, and I am cautiously optimistic about building a relationship with her. She is understandably confused and hurt by recent events, but she seems genuinely interested in getting to know me. I have been careful not to overtly criticize our parents, but I have been honest about my experience when she asks specific questions. Aunt Patricia has extended an invitation for Miranda to visit the B&B for a weekend next month. Our grandparents are supportive of this plan, believing it might help Miranda see that there are different types of family structures and relationships. I am both apprehensive and excited about spending time with my sister in the place that became my true home. As for my parents, they have become increasingly isolated within the family. Their attempts to portray themselves as victims have largely failed, as more relatives learn the truth about their treatment of both their children. I heard they are considering relocating to another state for a fresh start, which sounds eerily similar to their solution when I became inconvenient. I am not certain if this will be my final update on this situation. Life has a way of taking unexpected turns, as the past few months have clearly demonstrated. What I do know is that I am exactly where I need to be, surrounded by people who genuinely care about me. Aunt Patricia continues to be my anchor, and I am grateful every day that she took in a troubled 7-year-old and provided him with a real home. If there is one thing I have learned from all this, it is that family is not defined by DNA. It is defined by who shows up, who stays, and who makes room in their heart, even when it is difficult. By that definition, Aunt Patricia is more family than my biological parents could ever be.